So you had this epiphany,
Mm-hmm.
and you went through the inner reflection.
Mm-hmm.
You were, I would say, you're one of the lucky ones, you know, because when you hear that and you respond to it, however, whatever that journey may have been, that you had this transformation and you kind of went towards what would appear to me like a calling, something that's definitely a passion and a purpose. And so now here you are, you're affecting all these lives. You're traveling, you're doing things that are really living your passion and your purpose. I have one question before we talk about the project that I know is also on your heart. When you stepped into this, I mean, you're successful, right? I mean, by definition, by most people's definition, you're successful. Did you ever at any point actually try to figure out how you were going to do it? Or did it just sort of happen? Or was it a little bit of both?
Oh yeah, it's been both. I mean, I really tried for a long time to orchestrate that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it needed to look this way, and I still do. I mean, it's you know,
I think it's human nature.
We're
right?
a culture of planners, and everything we read says strategic plan this 5 years out and do that. And that's not a natural fit for me because I'm more of an ADD creative. I've got 10 things going on.
I call that an intuitive, but
intuitive, yeah. Which it's one of those. It's a blessing, and then oftentimes it gets in the way. But for the most part, I've found the fun part of that, which is not ever being understimulated and always being thoughtful and creative. But the trying to plan it. I guess circling back to where the question was, have you planned it? Yes, I've tried to do that a lot, and here what the interesting part is usually it doesn't work. Usually when I get out of the way of it, and that sounds cliche, but when I get out of the way of what I'm trying to orchestrate, naturally let the flow. One of my heroes, who I think is probably the gifted communicator of our culture, is Oprah.
Mm-hmm.
She just knows how to connect to she built this platform, which was her classroom. And she's been under the microscope, like her or not. You couldn't be on the air 25 years and say everything everybody likes. So
absolutely.
she gets critiqued, but she is really an ambassador of true emotional connection and communication with the masses. Mm-hmm. And so I've studied and loved watching her. She's been kind of a mentor to me and a lot of other people. But the way that she connects, and she always talks about energy and flow. She finally got it. When she did her final 2 shows, she summarized the 25 years of that platform and the touch points she has, which are immeasurable, to being in flow, being in energy. And so I definitely believe in that.
So, and the reason I asked that question is just because a lot of people have a calling or a passion or a purpose, but they never actually take action because they're constantly trying to figure out what actions they're supposed to take. And there's always that question of the doing or the being. And it's being it, you know, and that's something that I know for myself. It's hard to try to explain that to somebody other than, you know, who would you be if you were already there? Be that person, you know. But that's exactly what I translate what you just said to, is ultimately you learned how to just be that person.
It's one of the hardest things. Being a human being is one of the hardest things I think there is to do in our culture, because we everything is built to be a human doing. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things we do at our programs back at Onsite is nobody reveals their profession when they come. And you'd be shocked at how difficult it is for people to talk if they can't attach their identity to what they do.
Right.
And so everybody comes in and we're like, that coming in, it's like we're here, all of you are great doers. You do things really well because we work with really creative, successful people, but they're really stuck. We want to get to know you as a human being rather than a human doing. So this week we're going to learn who you are, not what you do. And just taking that away and then watch them try to get to know another human being without talking from that platform. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an artist. It's for a lot of them it drops the resistance and they can actually be vulnerable and be seen, I guess, for the first time.
Wow. Okay, I mean, we could explore many things together here. I want to talk about the Blind Kindness Project that you are working on. So please explain to us what
it is.
Yes.
It's really cool, and it's cool that it was a nice segue because it ties in with being a human being. And interestingly enough, I've been fortunate because I've been around some really gifted clinicians and gifted therapists and healers, and I've been able to mentor under some, and I've studied and watched what how the masters work. And the one common denominator or theme that I saw from really effective change agents or therapists or counselors or whatever you want to call them, people that support people in the change process, is they're all pretty connected. They finally get to a place, having learned everything, that it's not really what I know, it's who I am. And there's actually research that supports that. It's frustrating for the mental health profession when you see research that says what we do has little to no impact on how people change. It's how we show up. And when I read that the first time, it was like, are you kidding me? All this money for training and all these things we learn, and it's really not about that. It is and it's not. I mean, the tools are necessary, but if you can't connect, you never can use the tools. And so this project was born out of me figuring that out. It was like having learned that all the fancy tricks you can do when you're working with people in therapy, and all it is breeding a culture of unconditional love, acceptance, and healing. And then you put those other things in place, they're great. But if you have that, the healing happens. It was like, how do you, I just wanted to load everybody I knew up on a big bus and bring them to get exposure, to learn this language, to learn that there's a different way to learn more about who you are. And then after putting a lot of thought and energy in that, I learned it's more about what's in here, not about what's up here. And it seems so simple, but so out of that I went from, okay, if that's true, then what's a simple way that, because there's always been a disconnect from mainstream versus the behavioral health or therapy community. And we've never been able to reach a lot of people in need because of the boxes we put our trade and practice in. And we always complain about that stigma that is around people getting help or people exploring. And I think we create a lot of it because of the way we box in our information and put rules and boundaries around it. So I've always tried to figure out, how do you reach the masses? What's a way that you can, if you can shift somebody 2 degrees and change their day, and they could change somebody else's day, how would that spread out there like a big web and just connect more humans? Because that's the goal. And I overthought it. I've gone to Belize and been in the jungle with a team of doctors for a week and treated 2,000. And it's a great cause. And been to other Guyana, South America. I've been to other places and done mission-oriented work or medical work. And I always thought that's what you had to do to give back. And I was out on the road speaking somewhere, and I was by myself, and the road gets weary. You get tired, you travel by yourself sometimes. And I was having breakfast one morning, and I finished up and put my card in to pay my tab, and the server said, it's been taken care of. And I said, by who? By you? And she said, well, just another guest in the restaurant wanted to anonymously pick up your bill today. They said, have a good day.
Wow.
And it did something. I had a wow moment. Oprah calls it an aha moment. But I had that moment. I was like, really? Why would somebody do that? They don't know me. Where'd they go? I want to say thank you. I couldn't, I had to surrender the outcome on that and just appreciate the process in the moment of it. Because they left.
Right. And
it was so beautiful. It was such a simple thing. And so I started doing that. I started making a practice of trying to do that every so often. Once a month I'd pick up somebody's tab in a restaurant and not tell them why. And so many cool stories came out of that. And I never shared them with anybody. And usually it wasn't the person that I paid for their tab that was touched the most, because I didn't know how they were touched. I left. It was the server.
Right.
And so I had this idea. It was like, and a good friend of mine, Jerry, that founded, he was the CEO of Time Warner and retired now, but he had the idea of HBO, home box office. He wanted to put a box on everybody's TV out there. This was back before cable, or when they were just starting cable. And he created this theory that I want to do touch points. That's how he measured the impact of putting a home box office in everybody's TV, is how many people can I touch with this new thing. And it was amazing how they spun that out there and measured touch points. How many people were touched. Now they use that in TV and media. So,